David faced a lot of opposition in his life. He had plenty of opportunities to get upset, lose his cool, and tell people off. But he prayed an interesting prayer in Psalm 141. He didn't ask God to defeat his enemies, didn't ask him to remove all of his challenges. He said, God, take control of what I say, keep my lips sealed. He was saying, God, I have a lot of people coming against me, and I know I'm going to be tempted to be rude, to be sarcastic, to be argumentative. So God, I'm asking you in advance, help me to keep it zipped up. What a great prayer. Every morning when we wake up, God, help me to not say things that are going to get me into trouble. Help me to not be disrespectful, argumentative, condescending. Lord, help me to keep my lips sealed. This is especially important when we're in stressful times. The traffic is bad, you're dealing with a difficult coworker. When you are in these pressured situations, when you know you're going to be tempted to say things that you shouldn't, you need to decide ahead of time that you're going to watch your words carefully. All through the day, like David, God, help me to keep my lips sealed. This is what Jesus did. Toward the end of his life, he knew he was coming into one of his most difficult seasons. He knew he would be betrayed, sold for 30 pieces of silver. He knew that he would be arrested, mistreated, crucified. He said to his disciples in John 14, I'm not going to be talking with you much anymore because my hour has come. He was smart enough to realize that he was going to be under incredible pressure. So he let them know, I've already made up my mind, I'm not going to be talking a lot. He was saying, in effect, I've already decided I'm not going to complain when I'm betrayed. I'm not going to be rude to Judas. I'm not going to argue with the soldiers. I'm not going to be condescending to my accusers. I'm going to be careful with my words. When you know you're going to be under pressure, a stressful situation at work, before you leave the house, you need to decide, I'm not going to say everything I feel today. I'm going to be extra careful. When you're going to be discussing a sensitive issue with your spouse, decide ahead of time, I'm not going to lose my cool. I'm not going to open the door to strife, to arguing. If Jesus, the Son of God, who has all power, said, I'm not going to be talking much in this pressured situation, how much more should we be careful what we say when we're under pressure? And it's easy to make excuses. Well, Joel, I was rude to them because they were rude to me. Well, I said some things I know I shouldn't have, but it's because I was under a lot of stress. No, you have the grace to be where you are and not be rude, not complain, not say hurtful things. You can either feed the flesh and say what you feel, or you can feed your spirit and keep your mouth closed. The problem is, if you keep feeding the flesh and saying everything you want, you won't grow up. You will stay a baby. And the scripture says, even though you're an heir, even though God has an incredible inheritance that belongs to you, joy, peace, favor, promotion, abundance, as long as you stay a baby, that inheritance will not be released. And taming the tongue is not just about being disciplined, it's about growing up. It's about seeing the inheritance that has your name on it released in your life. I know people, they're 47 years old, but they're still a baby. They haven't learned to control their mouth. And sometimes it's not big things that keep us from God's best. It's small things. In the big picture, it's a small thing to not argue with the spouse. It's a small thing to not be sarcastic, put people down. God's not asking us to give away our belongings, to move to a difficult place. He's simply asking us to tame our tongues, to use our words to bless and not curse, to use them to build people up and not tear them down. This is one of the reasons the Israelites didn't make it into the promised land. God brought them out of slavery. They were headed to the land flowing with milk and honey. But along the way, when they came under pressure, instead of taming their tongue, they started complaining, criticizing Moses. Moses, why did you bring us out here in the desert to die? It was an 11-day journey to the promised land. But because of their negative words, they went around the same mountain for 40 years and never did make it in. If you can't say something beneficial that's going to edify, build up, do yourself a favor and zip it up. It's not only affecting the other person, that's keeping you from your destiny.